Hi, my name is Kathy Turner. I'm currently a student at William Patterson University in Wayne, New Jersey. I am a senior and an English major. I will be graduating with my bachelor's degree in December 2024. I currently work at my local library part-time as a circulation assistant in the children's department. After graduation, I plan to work full-time and attend school part-time for my master's degree. I want to specialize in library science, and my ultimate career goal is to become a library director at a public library. For this project, it's for technical writing. I'm going over two of the lessons I learned. One was the different types of messages, and the second one was the different types of presentations in technical writing. So to start off the presentation, I'm going to go over technical writing, what it is with an introduction. Basically, when I started this course, I did not realize what technical writing was. I thought it was just, you know, formal technical things. I thought it was, instruction manuals, textbooks. I didn't realize that it would be covering all of these different communications. And especially the workplace communication. I thought that was really interesting and very useful. The next thing we would be going over is different types of messages, then common speaking occasions, and then a conclusion to wrap everything up. Technical writing. What is technical writing? What are the genres and what are some examples? What is technical communication writing? So I think the best way to explain it would be basically saying it's information that is being prepared and published, specialized information, and it's being conveyed to a reader that doesn't have a background in that, a non-specialized reader. Um, the reader, you want to have the reader use and understand the information provided in order to complete a task or accomplish something. Also, their visuals can be used, as you see here, a pie chart, but mainly the bridging of that gap is what is important in technical writing to achieve the purpose. Okay, these are the genres of technical communication writing. As I went over earlier, I said I assumed it would all be technical, unfortunately, the stereotype of it being dry, but it also does cover a lot of workplace stuff. So an example of the technical stuff or the technical stuff would be procedures or instructions. And then an example of, say, an academic or workplace technical communication writing would be oral presentations, which we're doing right now, but it's definitely it's covered under that umbrella. So this slide is an extensive list basically of all the different types of communication, technical communication. I inserted a picture of a recipe that was contained in a magazine. That was actually one of the examples they provided. So I thought that would be a good asset to the slide. There are four different types of messages in technical writing. There's informative, positive, negative, and persuasive. Informative messages. So you want to present the reader or the audience with information that they need to know or you need them to know. You want to encourage them to read, understand, and respond in either a neutral or positive manner. You always want to downplay negative elements in any messages. So for positive messages, you want to share good news. You're downplaying any negative elements, and you're ensuring that the readers read, understand, and respond positively. Negative messages. You expect the reader to be upset. There are a few goals of this message. You want to make it clear to the reader what is happening so they can accept it. You want to diffuse any negative emotions as much as possible and prevent any additional correspondence or communication on the topic. This is the end of the discussion. You want to make that clear. And you also want to maintain the reader's goodwill. So you still want them to be in a good state with you. Maybe the situation didn't work out, but you want them to maintain that goodwill with you. Negative messages employ a device called a buffer. A buffer is a neutral or positive statement that precedes the negative information. It doesn't give any clue or hint at what negative information is coming. If possible, the best thing to do would be to offer an alternative or a compromise to the reader. After the buffer, you would state the negative information once clearly. You don't need to do more than once. And then you close with a positive ending to maintain that goodwill. An alternative to a buffer is you begin the message by stating the reasoning for the negative information, once, and then the same process as any other negative message with a, say, the same as one with a buffer. So for this presentation, I created a slide of what a good buffer would look like in a negative message. On the bottom, I said why it's a good buffer. These are standard characteristics of good buffers. So started positive, offered a solution, and only stated the negative news once. So this is an example of a poor buffer. I created it for my presentation. I'm not going to go into the exact email or correspondence because I feel like that doesn't really make much sense. But on the bottom, it does say why it's a poor buffer. This buffer, the reasoning for this could apply to many a poor buffer. So I'm going to just read off what it is. There's no padding to the message. So it's not insulated at all. It's kind of harsh, curt. It starts with negative information. That buffers don't start with negative information. The negative information is repeated. In negative messages, you never want to repeat the negative information. It does not offer any possible solution. Sometimes there won't be a possible solution, but you want to try to ensure that you can find something to help the reader out. The buffer that I used was not firm with the rejection. You want to be clear. It has to be clear to the reader. Otherwise, you're going to might have further interaction with the candidate or the receiver, and you want that person to realize that this is the end of the communication. Persuasive messages. So they're relatively simple. You expect the reader to resist the message. There are two categories. One is direct request messages, where you're asking the reader to do something. And then the other one is solution finding messages, where you identify a problem and then you propose a solution. The first type of persuasive message is the direct request message. You're asking the reader to do something for you. You're asking them to act. People act when they're motivated. So you kind of have to get into the reader's head. You need to know how or what they think. And then you still could be met with resistance. So then you have to find those possible sources of resistance and the reasoning. The reasoning for objection mainly falls under three categories: emotional reasons, practical reasons, and general misapprehension. So that's always those three are something to take into account. The second type of persuasive message is the solution finding message. It identifies a problem that you and the reader share and then proposes a solution. Sometimes you are successful, and that's when it becomes a persuasive message. However, other times your reader might have some objections and obstacles you might face. So it's in your best interest to anticipate and overcome any potential obstacles that may occur. So common speaking occasions in technical writing communication, there's casual, impromptu short talks, speaking to small group meetings, informal prepared presentations, and then formal presentations to large groups. Casual impromptu short talks. So 3 to 7 people usually attend these talks. You know each other well. It's an opportunity to speak about everyday work. You may be asked to give an update or a status update on something. That usually you would make that 30 to 60 seconds. You do want to know the audience. You want to be aware of what's going on and how to communicate what's going on to your coworkers and later on your superiors. On occasion, sometimes you will be working with a cross-functional team. So maybe different departments that might not know every aspect of your work. So the best thing to do in that situation is, have a 30-second, introduction about what you do and a key aspect of your work. So this slide is basically an example of a casual impromptu talk with 3 different coworkers. One's the supervisor, and then the other 2 are just coworkers with one another. At the bottom, I wrote why one was more successful than the other, but the general gist of it is basically you need to be aware of what's going on and the details and how to explain that to anyone that needs to know any information about the project. Okay, so for small group meetings, the purpose is basically a reason to get work done. This requires preparation, unlike the casual impromptu short talks. Um, you might be asked to provide a document or even a small group sample section of the project, so that way people are able to familiarize themselves better with your work. So for informal prepared presentations, there's no specified amount of time. You could provide additional materials. It does require more preparation than a small group meeting. And the purpose in general is to focus or generate discussion. Formal presentations to large groups. So typically, formal presentations to large groups consist of 15 or more people. The presenter is given a lot of time to prep, usually anywhere from weeks to months. You do have to be aware that there may be some more distractions occurring in this audience. Because when there's more people, there's going to be more distractions. So, such things as people getting up to use the restroom, maybe people looking at their phones, falling asleep. It's not something to take personal because there's a higher probability of these things occurring with the more people that are in the room. So just something to keep into account, take into account. You should also ask about the material um, conditions. So basically, is there a stage? Is the stage elevated? How's the lighting? Is there a mic stand? Stuff like that. It's always good to know what you're going into so you're prepared. Also, you want to try to scope the audience, which is a typical thing. And there's two types. There's informative and decision making. Information-based presentations. So they're less intense than decision-making presentations. They convey the information about the subject rather than say like policy changes or anything like that. You're just informing the audience. You do want to evaluate the possible knowledge of the audience. And then there are quite a few different ways of informing the audience. I have some written here. Decision-making presentations. So this is more presentations that are judged a bit harsher. They're less tolerant of poor presentation. They're less willing to listen unless they know the exact reasoning why they're listening. They think more about the implications of what you're saying. And then lastly, they prefer to have things such as handouts to refer to. In conclusion, there are multiple benefits to becoming skilled at technical writing. You become a better communicator. Your interactions professionally become more enriched. And also, you become more comfortable speaking in front of others, say for oral presentations. Thank you so much. Have a great day.